not lead because they're afraid of failure. And I think that's usually the case, as it was with me. They need to exercise faithfulness despite their fears. Remember, God calls us, but let me say it another way. He doesn't call the equipped, but he equips those that he calls. That's what I was trying to say. Think back on your experiences, perhaps from your childhood days. Do you recall being afraid of doing any kind of thing, such as maybe as a child, diving off a diving board, maybe riding a bicycle without training wheels? Well, you know, many times adults fear these same things. Yet when we move beyond our comfort zone and we really try new things, we'll gain new insight on those problems. And in the process, we will learn to face our fears. And I've found that facing your fears is the only time is when you're going to begin to grow. Because as long as you sit back and say, well, maybe next week, next time or something, I can't try that now. I don't have enough spirit about me, and I'm just too shy. And I did that for a long time and found this to be true. And it reminds me, if I can use an example of myself, years ago in Texas when I first started in ministry, I was in this little church, Baptist church, and I was invited to join, and guess where I went? To the very back of the very right corner. Not too conspicuous, or too conspicuous really. But anyway, after just 2 or 3 weeks, the minister of music at the church called me aside and said, would you do a special for us this Sunday morning? I said, what did you say? He said, would you do a special for us this Sunday morning? I said, well, I never have before. He said, well, I know, that may be. He said, but you got to start somewhere. And next Sunday could be your day. And boy, fear just flooded me. And I said, well, all right, I'll pray about it and I'll try. So through the week I prayed and I just could not get rid of the fear and that of shyness and bashfulness. Sunday morning, during this service, the pastor came up to make the announcements. I'd been praying and I just didn't have peace about it at all. I was afraid and I didn't want to walk away or whatever. And then suddenly, it seems the Lord spoke in my ear and says, look, I'd never been, I don't think, in the church with a balcony, a second floor balcony before, but that church had it. And he said, as you start, you begin. Wait a minute, I'm getting ahead of myself there, I'm sorry. Anyway, I went up to sing, and I lost my place, and I panicked. And I did the unthinkable, I guess. I walked back down. I didn't know what to do. But I walked out of the church. I didn't just sit down in my seat and wait for whatever was going to happen. Well, I thought, well, they'll never ask me to do anything again, and I don't know if I should go back to church or not, but I want to be in church. I want to serve the Lord. So I went back. About 2 weeks, the minister of music stopped me again. He said, Richard, Dick, when are you going to do that special for us? Try this Sunday. I said, all right. Can you believe I went back through the same process? So shocked, so frightened, so fearful that I lost my place and that blew it, and I went out and left again. But somehow the Lord kept me coming back. So the third time that happened, I asked the minister of music when he asked me, I said, look, this thing has failed twice, and now you're asking me again? I didn't think you'd ever ask me that. He said, look, he said, you have a beautiful voice. God has given it to you, but you don't believe it. Others do, but you don't. And until you do, you'll never use it for His glory. You know, he told me exactly the truth. It was right. I said, all right, I'll try. So when I came back the third Sunday, as I was sitting there, the pastor had just come up and making the announcements, the Lord spoke to me and said, look, this church has a second floor balcony. When you begin your song, look up on your left. That person sitting there. And you sing, and you look in their eyes, and you sing to that person. Then you go to the next one, the next, and next. Come back down, and by then your song will probably be through. So praise the Lord. So that's exactly what I did. And I couldn't believe myself that I could look at the people and sing. And now, remember, I lost my place twice before. I hadn't even looked at the words when the song was through. And I hit everything right. And I got a lot of applause and some amens, and some people came to me and said, I knew you could do that. I knew you had a problem with it. I knew you could do it. So yes, that's very true, and that's what we have to do, is just believe and know that God's going to be with us. And if you don't ever step out, you'll never do whatever that problem is, whatever that thing is that you need to do. So I certainly found that out for myself. Accept your responsibility. That's another thing. Let's look at Joshua 1 through 5. Joshua 1 through 5. Now after the death of Moses, the servant of the Lord, it came to pass that the Lord spoke unto Joshua, the son of Nun, Moses' a minister, saying, Moses my servant is dead. Now therefore arise, go over this Jordan, thou and all this people, unto the land which I do give to them, even to the children of Israel. Every place that the sole of your foot shall tread upon, that have I given unto you, as I said unto Moses. From the wilderness and this Lebanon, even unto the great river, the river Euphrates, all the land of the Hittites, and unto the great sea toward the going down of the sun, shall be your coast. There shall not any man be able to stand before thee all the days of thy life. As I was with Moses, so I will be with thee. I will not fail thee, nor forsake thee. You know, the thought occurred to me that it never had before when I read that. This was two great leaders that God chose. But you know, Moses, of course, began, and he had this problem. He just didn't believe he could speak to people or lead people at all. He had no confidence in himself at all. And you know, God appeased him and said, well, I'll get your son Aaron to help you in this ministry. You say you can't speak well, he can. But you know, Joshua may not have had any answers, but someone was needed, and so to replace Moses, God had chosen him. So when God said that, wasn't any hesitation. He stepped right forward, and he was that kind of leader. But everybody doesn't have that way about them, I guess. Opportunities for spiritual leadership are all around us, really, if you think about it and think. And that certainly was the occasion for Joshua when Moses passed. And many times that's what it is. Someone may pass that is a leader in some capacity, and if someone offers you the opportunity to do that, you need to step forward. And that's what I finally had to do, and it was frightening, and I'm still not real composed, but still trying. And although God had given the land to his people, they would need to cross the Jordan River in the process. Well, you know, other people had settled there. So he knew that there was a possibility of a war, and that he had to know that. But he stepped forward and went on and led them to their victory. Hear God's commands. Joshua 1, 6 through 9. Joshua 1, 6 through 9. Be strong and of a good courage, for unto this people shalt thou divide for an inheritance the land, which I swear unto their fathers to give them. Only be thou strong and very courageous, that thou mayest observe to do according to all the law which Moses my servant commanded thee. Turn not from it to the right hand or to the left, that thou mayest prosper whithersoever thou goest. This book of the law shall not depart out of thy mouth, but thou shalt meditate therein day and night, that thou mayest observe to do according to all that is written therein. For then thou shalt make thy way prosperous, and then thou shalt have a good success. Have not I commanded thee? Be strong and of a good courage. Be not afraid, neither be thou dismayed. For the Lord thy God is with thee whithersoever thou goest. You know, this kind of praise will strengthen you to step up when you know you need to and want to. God expects all believers to lead spiritually in their areas of influence, wherever that may be. Fear and discouragement hinder people from exercising spiritual leadership. Another hindrance is a distorted or an improper view of success in leadership. And many times, some people think this will bring them success or money or fame or whatever. But if that's true, especially in the church or in the Christian endeavors, that would fail. But we can overcome these obstacles when we pay attention to God's Word. That's always got to be first and foremost. For God to speak to you and to guide you, He can do that many times through His Word, the Bible. Act courageously. Joshua 1:10 and 11 and 16 through 18. That's Joshua 1, 10 and 11 and 16 through 18. Then Joshua commanded the officers of the people, saying, pass through the host and command the people, saying, prepare you victuals, which is food, for within 3 days ye shall pass over this Jordan, to go in to possess the land which the Lord your God giveth you to possess it. And going on to verse 16, and they answered Joshua, saying, all that thou commandest us we will do, and whithersoever thou sendest us we will go. According as we hearkened unto Moses in all things, so will we hearken unto thee. Only the Lord thy God be with thee, as he was with Moses. Although at times the people weren't with Moses. You know he had problems with them, but they felt they were, I guess. Whosoever he be that doth rebel against thy commandment, and will not hearken unto the words in all that thou commandest him, he shall be put to death. Only be strong and of a good courage. Amen. Well, Joshua certainly had his opportunity, didn't he, when Moses passed, and God chose him to step into Moses' shoes. And without hesitating, as I said before, Joshua commanded the officers of the people to prepare to cross the Jordan River within 3 days. The time had come. He instructed the people to gather their necessary supplies for their journey. Discouragement and fear often go hand in hand with leadership. God did not tell Joshua he might be terrified and disgruntled and discouraged someday. Rather, he was already. But he stepped forward, encouraged. And even if he didn't, these words might describe our feelings about being spiritual leaders. Today's Bible study suggests ways believers can overcome such fears. The first way is to accept your responsibility. God will help you if you step forward with your heart and your faith. The second way to overcome your fears is to hear God's commands. Always hear God's commands. The third way to overcome your fears is to act courageously in God's strength. You notice it said, in God's strength. That's the important part. There's a story about during the Second World War, England's King George VI encouraged his people with these words, "And I said to a man who stood at the gate of the yard, 'Give me a light, that I may tread safely into the unknown.' And he replied, 'Go out into the darkness and put your hand into the hand of God. That will be to you better than a light and safer than a known way.'" And that's from John C. Maxwell's publication, The 21 Most Powerful Minutes in a Leader's Day, by Nelson Publishers of Nashville, Tennessee, 2000. Well, you know, these words are consistent with the truth of who God is and what He has promised to do in and through us if we trust Him. Are you ready to set this kind of example to lead in some endeavor? Our offertory